Hey guys, Azrael Ravenheart here, and this is going to be the draft breakdown and not quite team build since they were already kind of built for this week, but the team planning, team build section for round one of the grid draft. Now, the unique part about this week is that my round has actually already been played, mostly due to me kind of trying to plan out how exactly I'm going to present this video for future weeks. A little bit of extra work going in so that way people who maybe aren't super well versed in PvP Monster Sanctuary, I mean, not that I am myself either, but I'm trying to make it presentable for an audience who maybe doesn't know everything super in tune with what actually is going on. If you've ever watched like Wolfie VGC or PokeAim's Pokemon draft videos, I'm kind of going for that kind of a style with how I present what my opponent has available. And then when we get to my team build, it's gonna actually just be in game itself, and I'll just be going down like what teams I have and what skills I've selected, what equipment I have equipped, and stuff like that once we get there. Obviously, I won't have anything like that for my opponents because with my opponents, I only know what monsters they have access to, and all I can do is really theorycraft what I think they may be able to field against me. Even though in this case, I actually do know what my opponent played against me since we played our games yesterday, but I'm not going to really bring any of that into the video. I might do a little bit at the very tail end of like a little bit of a retrospective, but I don't know that I'm planning on doing retrospectives. Maybe I'll have them at the end of the actual gameplay videos, so perhaps we will throw a little bit of a retrospective on at the end of this video and just chat a little bit about like what my opponent did bring and what I could have maybe done better with my teams or played differently, although that would definitely work better at the end of the gameplay video. But enough rambling with that. Let's get into my opponent's draft. And I will be presenting these in the order that they drafted, at least somewhat. Sometimes there's three, sometimes there's two, but they will be in like the order that they came as far as Dodobot gives them to me. So, first up we have Spinner. Obviously, everybody knows this Mon. This is a brutally offensive crit-based attack Mon. Light Shift Leadership gives you some charge synergy, lets you spread around charge stacks. More than likely going to be Dark Shift Bleed Out. Makes it so that when enemies take bleed damage, the bleed stacks don't go away. Deep Wounds, increasing that bleed damage. It's real clear synergy. This guy's a bleed monster and just capable of putting so much offensive pressure on the opponent. Also, excellent type coverage on the offense. The only thing this monster can't attack with is wind. Great balance of physical and magic offensive stats. Little squishy, but, I mean, that's the price you pay for having something that can crank out the damage like Spinner can. Definitely something that I am slightly worried about because this monster just historically is known for cranking out tons of damage. And that's always scary because a good string of crits off of a buffed up Spinner and one of your mons is just gone. And you're down a mon already in like an early turn, and that's not something I really want to have to be thinking about in battles. And bleed is just such an immense amount of pressure when it doesn't get removed that it just builds up over a couple turns, and then suddenly your mons are looking at taking half to 3/4 of their life total in damage every single turn, and it could just be really, really hard to push through that every single turn. And if there's any defensive supports next to Spinner, giving it enough longevity to just continue pushing through, then you're in a world of trouble. Next up, we have the Frog, Spectral Toad. one of the 4 starters for Monster Sanctuary, and everybody loves the 4 starters, except maybe Eagle. Um, Light Shift Heal Charge. Healing actions give healed monsters a charge for every heal, active and passive. Dark Shift Mana Potential, reducing damage taken and increasing damage dealt by 1% for every 20 current mana, calculated before the mana is spent. Both of these are excellent. Now already we're seeing a theme. Spinner and Spectral Toad's Light Shifts are both charge related. And this is going to come up. My mild spoiler coming up for the rest of the team, but there's very potentially a charge build here, and that is something going in that I am concerned with, because there's definitely some charge synergies here. Spectral Toad is an excellent bulky support mon that has excellent healing and excellent ability to protect its teammates. Notable skills are almost all defensive except for multi-poison. Multi-bulk on very few mons is just an excellent support option. Protector, making your team take less damage. Tenacious Barrier is great, has some channel support. And then can chip in a little bit with multi-poison. It has access to Poison Fangs, Poison Chomp, whatever, Poison Eater, whatever that the Chompy Chomp skill is that wants your opponent to have a bunch of poison on them. So it can stack up poisons and then kind of turn the corner and output a surprising amount of damage even for a support mon. So this thing is definitely a problem. Also has Taunt, and we can't not talk about Taunt because that is a problem skill. You know, get down, Mr. President, on something like a spinner when I've got like a clear kill lined up and the Toad eats it instead of the spinner, and then the spinner just rips off a massive string of crits, including a lethal stack of bleed on my DPS. That is the kind of turn that can swing the entire tide of battle. So definitely something I need to look out for, although, you know, Taunt, obviously, you can't play around that unless you have one of the very few things in the game that can ignore redirection, which there aren't very many of. But yeah, the Toad is just an all-around excellent mon, and one that more than likely I wouldn't be surprised if my opponent brings. We have Yowie. Yowie is a mon that I'm not very familiar with ever really seeing get used too terribly often. Light Shift is Eternal Heart, 12% increase to health and mana. This is, if I was to make a tier list of shift passives, this would probably be pretty low on that list. This isn't exactly the thing I really want out of my shift passive. Now, granted, you can look at the stats above. Light Shift Yowie is a brick wall. Like, that thing has so much health. And it does have supply, which doubles into its health and uses its health as a healing battery for its allies. But you probably want to be on Dark Shift Overheal for that, right? If that's what your game plan is, because that seems to synergize much better than just having more health on Yowie. And Overheal needs no introduction. This passive is excellent. Overheal at max health going into shields just makes your team so bulky and just lasts so long. And with a mon that has Protector and Supply alongside Heroic Party, wanting your team to kind of slow burn, ramp up, sustain through weather that storm, and then the combination of Congeal plus Fatal Upkeep to kind of break down the opponent over time. Fatal Upkeep synergizing with Spectral Toad's multi-poison as well. Definitely this could be an avenue that my opponent brings to the table if they want to take a bulky, slow, grindy approach. We have Spinner, who can definitely output a high amount of damage pressure very quickly once it gets buffed up a little bit. But then we have Toad and Yowie, who could go the opposite end of the spectrum and try to drag me well into the murky deep waters, buff me up real terribly, and just kind of drag me through the mud and just try to burn me down slowly. So already within 3 monsters, I see 2 very different looks that my opponent could bring to the table. Next up, we've got the one, the only, it's Harambe. I mean Brutus, but really, it's Harambe. Come on, we know him, we love him. This is the one-shot, one-shot, 3-kill monster that we all know and love. Light Shift Utopia, that's probably what you're going to see 99% of the time. Every monster in your party getting 3 charge stacks at the beginning of every turn. That's what you want. You want to turn 1 power focus. You want to turn 2 ram charge and try to get a double or a triple kill and just take a massive advantage in the battle. Notable skills, Forceful Might for that defense penetration off of the might, Multi-Might because all we want to do is punch, Improved Assault for some extra damage for all your offensive buffs, and King of Beasts in case you happen to have any other beast synergies, which my opponent actually does. We'll see that a little bit later. And that is a pretty notable buff that Brutus gets for the other beasts in the party. It is a pretty sizable damage increase, and also debuffs are less effective on beasts. That's nothing to shake a stick at. Not that Brutus is shaking sticks, he's throwing hands. Dark Shift Relentless, come on now, you're using Utopia. And also, Utopia synergizes with the other charge synergies that we've already seen out of my opponent. I would not be surprised to see a charge comp coming out of my opponent. This is yet another monster who fits that bill. And one that fits it very nicely, being just this brick that is capable of building up and outputting tremendously terrifying amounts of damage at me every couple turns, while keeping the team pumped up pretty substantially for outputting good damage every couple turns as well. Next up is a Mon that, well, probably will need an introduction because I've sure as heck never used this Mon. I've barely even interacted with it in the game, and that's Sycophantum. I don't even know that I could tell you where this one is in the vanilla game, to be perfectly honest. But we've got Light Shift Holy Presence, Aura every buff, heal, or shield action of an ally applies a random buff. Now, that's a pretty good introduction as far as I'm concerned. Free random buffs for taking non-offensive actions? You don't gotta sell me on much more than that. That's pretty damn good. And then we got Shadow Proc as our Dark Shift. Every action applies a damaging hit, a shield, a heal, or a random buff depending on the action type. This could be my inexperience with PvP or with using Shadow Proc in general, but this is a shift passive that would probably go pretty low on a tier list for me. Maybe I don't know how to optimize this well, but at least as far as shift passives go, this is one that I read and go, I don't want this. This isn't enough for me. This is not what I want out of my shift passive. And the stats that it gains going Dark Shift aren't exactly a lot to write home about. It is a little bit more offensive compared to the Light Shift, but Holy Presence is like, that's some substance to build around compared to Shadow Proc, which is just like, here's a little sprinkle on top of like whatever you're already doing. I mean, the numbers don't seem too bad. 75% on like a damage proc is usually a little bit higher than we get elsewhere, but I just don't know that that's like enough. Moving into the notable skills. Buff Celebration, Exposed, Empower, Charge Chant, Multi-Barrier. We got some defensive utility. We got some offensive utility. This thing is going to be an obnoxious support is what I see. It wants to be beside other mons that can apply blinds so that you can maximize exposed for sure. Buff celebration, I mean, every mon in the game practically is playing into that for the most part. Multi-barrier is going to add a bunch of defensive utility into the party. And then charge chant, again, there's some more of that charge synergy, and we've already seen multiple of my opponent's mons able to produce some degree of charge output in their shift slots alone, and Brutus even has additional charge support in his tree. Definitely an avenue that my opponent may bring to the table against me this week. Next up, we've got Argiope, the Spooter. This is a mon that most people are probably going to be familiar with. Light Shift, Heal Charge. All healing skills give the healed monster a charge for each heal. And Dark Shift, Overheal. So, both of its shift passives play into wanting to be a heal support, which does synergize for the most part with most of its notable skills, because this is one of your better channeling supports, as it sports extra channel, multi-channel, and channeling balance. And this is where most people will know it from, a channeling balance comp. And it is absolutely excellent in that as a support that is able to crank out those channels and bring the channeling balance into the team, but also then suppress the enemy via use of blind and tether to keep the opponent's counterattacks to a minimum. It also brings severe upkeep to the table, which is not really aligned with what its general purpose usually is, but it does like lend itself to a debuff comp, potentially utilizing it as a support option as well. However, I want to point you to the stat gains that Dark Argiope has, because that is a non-insignificant amount of offensive stats that Dark Argiope gets. Do not sleep on this thing being able to actually output some damage on you if that's how they choose to build. This is not a one-trick pony, all I do is channel, support, and heal. This little guy can actually crank some damage on you if it chooses to. Now, at this point, we're 6 mons in. I want to bring your attention to something that I did notice during the draft, and you will see in my team builds, I do attempt to exploit as much as humanly possible. Spinner is weak to magic and not resistant to fire. Spectral Toad is weak to fire. Yowie is weak to fire. Brutus doesn't know what a weakness is. Sycophantum is weak to fire. Argiope is weak to fire. This is very, very notable. And I caught this at the beginning of the draft when my opponent's first 3 picks were Spinner, Toad, and Yowie, and when all 3 of those are weak to fire. And my opening picks, for reference, were Salahammer and Griffinix, 2 fire-type attackers. And then when my opponent followed with Brutus, Sycophantum, and Argiope, 2 more fire-weak mons, I knew I could definitely play to exploit my opponent's very apparent fire weakness that I think they may have overlooked during the draft. And so this will come up when we get to my teams a little bit later on. And that is just a little bit of a PSA. Keep your weaknesses and resistances in mind when you're grid drafting out there, fellas, because if you open the door for your opponents to potentially exploit weaknesses, and they do, you might find yourself in a little bit of additional trouble that you shouldn't be in. But next up, we've got the Rainbow Blob. Yet again, another weak to magic, not resistant to fire. Boy oh boy, that's now 2 additional mons that aren't directly weak to fire, but they are weak to fire if it happens to come in magic form. And Griffinix has Spark Shower, which hits like a freaking truck. Light, Mass Mystify, Dark, Debuff Mastery. Boy oh boy, God, if I had a nickel for every time this combination of broken freaking shifts happen to be on the same mon, I'd have at least 2 nickels, which would be a little weird because it's happened at least twice. But Jesus, these are 2 of the best shifts in the game, and when they happen on the same mon, that happens to be a debuff battery mon, whoo boy, you pretty much cannot go wrong. Would you like free buffs with your complement of debuffs that you're spamming all over the enemy team? Or would you like to just debuff them even harder? It's a win-win. Just pick one. You can't go wrong. Toxic reaction, igniting gas, incinerate, frostbite. Would you like your debuffs to produce more debuffs, that produce more debuffs, that produce more debuffs? You get the point. The sting will debuff you to oblivion. And then you'll wake up in Skyrim. Alright, like that's the point of it. You are just going to take so much debuff damage, you're going to be stocked to heck, and the cherry on top, we got dominance at the end. We're going to make our whole team do a boatload more damage to your whole team because I've put 30 red squares on each of your mons. Now, little squishy, but hey, that's what you get when you get a blob. Most of the blobs are a little bit squishy, but they do their jobs well, and you can always build a little bit around the squishiness because they're usually not aiming for maximum damage output. They are usually aiming to be a bit on the grindier side, a little bit more slow and steady wins the race, and that's definitely the case with Rainbow Blob, considering that this little guy wants to put as many red squares on you as humanly possible. Next up, we got the Ninki the Nanka. This is the first one where I actually had to expand the slide a little bit because, yeah, that's a lot of notable skills. This is one heck of a support mon who can turn the corner and do a little bit of damage when need be once everything is ramped up. We got Light Shift Enlightened, 55% chance to share buffs with an allied monster when receiving one, and Dark Shift Overheal. Hey! Tell me if you've seen Overheal already on these slides. That's definitely possibly not going to be an avenue that my opponent can take. But also Enlighten is just absolutely insane with Ninki Nanka because this thing wants to spread the buffs all over the place. We got Elemental Break, Empower, Heroic Party, Multi-Regen, Multi-Sidekick, Preparation, Restoration, and Supply. This thing will be tanky. It will provide a ton of debuffs. It has debuff cleansing via regeneration stacks and probably even a restorative wand that it's carrying as well. It's buffing the party's damage via Empower and Heroic Party. And once it starts to get some armor breaks on you, it's also opening up your weaknesses even further than they already are. Absolutely excellent support mon that can output a bit of damage in the late game once all those buffs are ramped up. An absolute potential menace in the mid to late battle if it shows up. Also notably, one of the mons that kind of covers a little bit for the magic weak monsters that don't resist fire, as it is weak to fire but resists magic. So I'm going to have to hit it very specifically with physical fire attacks if I want to exploit that fire weakness, which is something that I have a little bit less access to on my team compared to the fire-based magic attacks. Next up, we got the turtle. It's Kame. Light Shift Utopia, Dark Shift Blacksmithing. Well, Utopia definitely isn't going to synergize with all the charge stack synergies that we've already seen across my opponent's team. And Blacksmithing is just a stock standard, excellent, just party buffing support utility option. Like, you never can really go wrong with Blacksmithing. But Utopia definitely already has very apparent synergy with everything else that my opponent has presented with charge setups. There is clearly a charge team here. And there is so much defensive support, so much healing that is available within my opponent's setup that I don't know if I have an answer to it. If they're just like, we have an overhealer in play, and we have like a heal charger and a Utopia, and we're building up, and then it's just like, all right, now we have like 75, 100 charge stacks, and bang, something's dead. And, like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to ramp my damage to the output to break through a full health, full shield Mon that has all the defensive utilities behind it, because his defensive support buffs that he has access to are absolutely ace. And it is terrifying. We have Carapace, we have Charge Reflexes, we have Multi-Might, we have double protected offense, Protector, and Static Glory. A nice combination of offense and defense coming out of Kami. We have extra charge support. We have extra offense support if you have a shield. Can't imagine how we're ever going to have shields when we have overheal on 2 or 3 Mons. Yeah, that's never going to happen. Protector for further defense. We've got Multi-Might and Static Glory. You can see where all these synergies are definitely in play on my opponent's side. And there are multiple different avenues that my opponent can take, and they are all kind of terrifying to think about at this stage. Not to mention, Kame is just really hard to deal with. This thing is so tanky. It's so bulky. It's just really hard to break this thing down, especially with the amount of defensive support already coming out of my opponent. Next up, we have Diavola. And I'm sure most people already are very familiar with Diavola. Notably, another Fire Weak Mon. We got Mass Mystify. We got Bleed Out. You know both of those. They're both war crimes. They're both excellent. More than likely, if we see a generic team, it'll be Mass Mystify. If we see Spinner and Diavola at the same time, they'll probably both bring Bleed Out to the table and are both going to threaten to really pressure me with those bleed stacks. We got Curse Weakness, Devour, Multi-Glory, Multi-Weakness, Scent of Blood, Shield Aura, Sprawl, and Static Glory. Shield Aura definitely already has very apparent synergy with everything else going on the opponent's team. We've got multiple Mons that are capable of tapping into Glory support, so Multi-Glory, Static Glory already have some homes there. Don't know if we have anybody else under the Nature banner yet, so Sprawl might not really have any utility here. Scent of Blood, again, if we've got Spinner and Diavola both here with Bleed Out, there will be Bleed stacks. That's just another damage multiplier to deal with. Curse of Weakness, Multi-Weakness, absolutely excellent pairing, lowering my damage, pressuring me even harder, adding random debuffs because I have weakness. Yeah, it's just a lot of pressure. And then Devour, just like threatening that if Diavola can turn a kill, which Diavola is very capable of, and like it survived the turn from my attacks, it just going back to full health and just getting so much health back, just making it an absolute nightmare to deal with. This thing is a problem. It's a very, very strong Mon, and I am probably most concerned with Bleed because, yeah, Bleed's hard to deal with. It's a problem. And I don't know that I've got the defensive setup to weather the storm through Bleed turns. I think I really just, if Bleed shows up, I need to get the Bleed Out Mons off the battlefield as quickly as possible. Otherwise, I probably just succumb over time to it. And last but not absolutely not least for my opponent is the bird, is the word Dodo. Light Shift Cursebreaker, Dark Shift Heroic Assault, these are both excellent supporting options. Extra free curse or debuff cleanse, or getting some free crit chance for every buff that's on your monsters. Both of these are absolutely excellent. We got another Channeling Balance Mon to go with Argiope in the Channeling Balance spectrum, and we already have Toad that's also adding into the balance support options. Multi-Might, Multi-Sidekick, yep, that's gonna put some additional pressure on me. Sensitivity, making me take some more damage when I'm weak. We definitely have some weakness applications somewhere in the team. Double Supply, just going to do an excellent job when paired with Life Wave off of Dodo at keeping your team nice and healthy through most turns. And if it's next to anything that has Overheal, really going to be absolutely annoying to ever get through. And then Wildlife Conservation is just one of those unique tribal buffs that's just absolutely incredible. So strong. And crosses over with Brutus, which is mildly terrifying. Brutus doesn't need to be harder to kill, but oh boy, will it ever be harder to kill if it's next to a dodo. Honestly, I don't even know how I'm breaking that. If it shows up, the only saving grace there is that dodo does not add to the charge stacks of Brutus because it doesn't have a charge synergy. Thank God, I guess. Yeah. Alright, so that's my opponent's team. We can definitely see there is a lot of channeling overlap. There's a lot of glory overlap. There's a lot of healing and overheal overlap. There is a lot of weakness overlap. There is a little bleed overlap. There's a lot of I think I said charge. I might have said if I didn't, charge overlap. Yeah, there's a lot of good overlapping synergies that my opponent can put together to make probably no less than 2 or 3 different teams that are going to have a lot of things working together for them, for sure. So now with that, we're going to go into game, and I'm going to show you the 4 teams that I cooked up for this week, using all 12 of the mons that I drafted. Alright, so first off, and this team did not come together as much as, this is a little bit of retrospective talk coming out, but this did not come together as much as I thought it would. But this was meant to be a little bit more of a burn team to really hammer in on that fire weakness. But turns out I only have 1 mon with a multi-burn. So we have a Salahammer, Dark Shift for Blacksmithing. And this is meant to be a bit of a defensive support that can turn after buffs are up and output a bit of damage in the middle to late portion of a battle. Especially once it gets a bit of charge stacks up for itself, as it's got some natural charge generation. We apply buffs, we get charge stacks, and things like that. When we apply yeah, a lot of charge synergy. I'm not going to really flick through the entire tree. You can see the tree, and that'll be kind of it. I'm going to try to keep this part a little bit more brief. Because there's a lot of things to flick around and show for my teams, especially considering that I'm going to cover 4 different teams. So yeah, we have a more supportive Salahammer who can turn in the mid-game and put out some damage. We have also a Light Shift support Asura, same exact concept, able to go in on the early turns and be a supportive buffing ally, and then in the middle turns, once buffs are active already, able to turn and output some damage and some buff stealing with either AoE flurry blows, or if I want to really go in on some single target, we have Lava Rush, provided that we have a burn on the target, which isn't going to be too difficult with everything else that's going on in the comp. The main damage dealer of the leadoff is Griffinix. This is really meant to output the damage here. Spark Shower is the main attack of choice to get the cannot be dodged, just in case that becomes relevant. We've got the cleansing regen over on the right tree. We've got a little bit of heal support. We got critical heal. We've got multi-burn. We've got a bit of burn synergy. We've got Fire Pillar as the ultimate to really pick a target and try to zero them out. And yeah, probably could have built this a little bit differently in retrospective, but you know, hindsight's 20/20, as they say. And this is Dark Shift for slow burn, as this is going to be the primary damage dealer. So I want it to ramp up, and I want it to be able to output the damage as much as possible turn after turn. In the backup for this team, we have a Light Shift Tanuki. We took this pretty early on. I think it might have been round 1, it might have been round 2, but pretty much took it to disincentivize my opponent from going into debuff spamming. And I've never really used Tanuki. I just know that it's very broken at preventing my opponent from doing the debuff thing. So I just have a pretty much utility support Tanuki here that's meant to spam Mass Restore and support its allies. That's pretty much all there is to say about Tanuki. You probably hate this mon. Everybody pretty much hates this mon because, well, yeah. It's a little good at what it does. We got an Arm Tail, and this is meant to just be a big old shield battery defense and party buffing monster with glitter. I really love Arm Tail. This is one of my favorite mons in the game. It also offers a little bit of a late game insurance policy to try to zero mons with Shield Burst, as it is able to battery so much shield out so quickly that it does just give me the option of potentially ramping up to full shield in like a turn and trying to just blast the target for lethal damage. And then as my backup damage dealer, we do have an Iraq Lich who... Oh, sorry. This is a Dark Shift Arm Tail with Blacksmithing. And then we have a Dark Shift Dark Instinct Iraq Lich. This guy is meant to come in and try to one-shot something with an Ice Bolt. With Sure Strike. And yep, we are just trying to hopefully come in and close out with Iraq Lich. Ideally, the rest of the team has put me into a position where Iraq Lich can come in and shut the door on the game with a nice big comet to something's face. As far as equipment is concerned, Salahammer is on Pirate Hook, Fin, Charging Sphere, and Coat. Astra is on Fishing Rod, Warrior Flask, Hood, and Drum. Griffithix is on Scythe, Fang, Fin, Bead Chain. Tanuki, Fan, Tambourine, Coat, Sun Pendant. Armtail, Restoring Wand, Drum, Sun Pendant, Slime Skin. And Iraq Lich, Fan, Fin, Cape, and Bead Chain. Food is pretty much standard. A lot of health on any of the supportive mons. And crit damage on the crit mons. And that's the first team. This team performed fairly well in game 1. I did get an early lead. I lost a little bit in the late game. Probably need to watch that one back and see if I could have navigated a little bit differently. I don't know that I could have, but I missed a shield burst kill due to blind stacks, and I got a little bit revive trolled. I don't know that I had the damage to zero the mons around the revived target out during that section because they were both very bulky supports, and then eventually after 4 or 5 revive turns, one of the supports actually zeroed one of my damage dealers out. And that kind of closed the battle off. So yeah, I gotta go back and watch that one. That one was an early lead where Griffithix took 2 very fast kills on the back of my opponent being very weak to fire, and Griffithix killing people. So yeah, definitely not what I wanted the team to do, because I wanted it to be a medium speed burn comp, but it ended up just being Griffithix killing things, and that was also fun because I love Griffithix. We'll go on to the next team. Team 2. And this is one of the very clear ones that I identified very quickly, which was aging. Elder Gel, Vertrag, Mega Rock are all just excellent aging mons, and there's no way I wasn't going to do an aging comp with this team, with these mons. Elder Gel is pretty much the primary damage dealer of the lead-off setup. This is Dark Shift, Mana Conflux, gain charge for mana spent by all of the allies. This allows it to have some amount of charge stacks every turn to just continually put out the damage. It's got Phoenix Affinity to cover it. It's got good sorcery generation. It's got some bleed stacks going out. It's got good damage output. It's got a little bit of fire to cover that fire weakness that my opponent had. And yeah, it was taking names. It was definitely a threat. While the age built up and constantly put more and more pressure on my opponent. Vertrag is Vertrag. You know what this mon does. This is Light Shift Curse Breaker because I wanted additional ways to keep debuffs and stacks off of my party during the early turns while age was building up. We've got Gravity as the late game win con, and that is exactly what it was, as the battle was closed out by Vertrag scoring a triple kill with Gravity. Yep, that's what Vertrag do. That's what this mon do. He supports and heals, and then eventually finds a triple kill with Gravity, and yep, that's why he's one of the better support mons for this style of a comp. I do wish he had a little bit better buffing for the team besides just, what's this one called? Enchantment, but, you know, is what it is. I had the Heat Shimmer on just in case I wanted to fire off, a good single target fire type attack because of my opponent's glaring fire weakness. I thought that this was a good flex point over, like, Encapsulate 5. Or any other option because of how disgustingly apparent my opponent's fire weakness was. We got Mega Rock. Usually you'll see Mega Rock with lightning punches, but again, my opponent has a million mons weak to fire, so we took fire punches instead. And boy oh howdy, did Mega Rock kill people. This thing just builds up over time with Primal Rage, and man, this thing just got to the point after a few turns, it has Utopia as well, that it was just pretty much threatening to kill whatever it targeted every single turn. And, yeah, and even the Meteorite Showers late game were threatening to take 3/4 of the HP off of, like, the entire enemy team. So, absolute excellent mon to just sit there and be, pun intended, the rock in the back of the team. Then we got the Light Shift Tanuki in the back again. Same exact role as it was in the other team. We've got a non-shifted Asura in the back of this team. And this is meant to be an additional damage dealer to come in the middle of the battle once one of the DPS mons from the lead squad goes down. We got the full fire punch set up for obvious reasons, as explained in Mega Rock's section again. Retrospective, should have had Lava Rush. This thing does really stupid damage, although I don't have burn access in this comp, so this might have actually not done that much in this team. So perhaps I'm actually correct with the current setup. But yeah, this guy's just meant to come in and crank some damage out in the mid game if need be. And then we have the Iraklich again, same exact role as it was in the other team. Late game closer that can come in and threaten to maybe nuke down one or two targets in the late game to try to close the door on the battle. For equipment, Elder Gel has Torch, Ancestral Metal, Mage Flask, Frozen Tear. Vertrag has Restoring Wand, Ocarina, Hide, Hourglass. Mega Rock has Trident, Ancestral Metal, Charging Sphere, Warrior Flask. The Trident is the big one here. I am a huge fan of using Trident over, I think it's Heavy Mace. The one that's just like the raw damage option. Yeah. I love having the bulkier DPS option because I like my damage dealers not getting zeroed out. And so I prefer to go Trident over Heavy Mace. You do lose a little bit of damage, but if you're playing for a few turns in and letting the age stacks ramp up anyways, you kind of make up for it anyhow. So, personal preference, but I like my damage dealer being that little bit extra tanky. Tanuki's the same setup as last comp. Asura is Katana, Finn, Buckler, and Grey Pearl. Grey Pearl, obviously, because we chose to be unshifted. It is a little bit better than dual wield, but not by an egregious amount. You could go dual wield if you wanted to maybe have like a utility offhand. But I wanted this Asura to come in and be a threat, so we go with the Grey Pearl here. And then the same exact setup for Araklich, Fan, Fin, Cape, Bead Chain. Food is crit damage on Elder Gel, bananas on on Vertrag, cookie mushrooms on Mega Rock, bananas on the Tanuki again, raspberries on the Asura, raspberries on the Araklich. For Team 3. And this is a team that I thought I had something special for, given that I knew my opponent had a lot of heal synergy. And this is a Congeal team. So we've got the Dark Shift Armtail in the lead. This is the same one from the other team. Just meant to be a very good defensive support in the front to keep my team healthy. Then we've got Ice Blob with its full setup of Congeal and multi-chill and everything. But the main thing that I thought would help me was Severe Cold, allowing me to get wound stacks on the enemy to suppress overheal. This did not work out as well as I thought. And that will be apparent when you see the gameplay video and what happened with the Congeal team. I won't go into spoilers there, but yeah. I'll let you watch the Congeal team and what happened with it. But Ice Blob, Light Shift for Light Instinct, because I just wanted this guy to be a little bit tankier. Dark Shift I didn't really think was going to help me too terribly much. This is a Light Shift Araklich, so Heal Charge. This is meant to kind of help support the team a little bit, throw in some extra chills and be an extra source of multi-chill, and then build up some additional charge stacks with heal charging, and then maybe allow me to pressure with like a big charge stack, like fire off and get a nuke off at some point. In hindsight, didn't really help that much. Did make my Araklich really, really tanky, though. We got Light Shift Vertrag again. I believe this might be the exact same Vertrag as the other team. We've got Dark Shift Blob. This is Curse Chain, so chance to spread the debuffs around to other enemies. This was meant to come in after one of the Mons from the leadoff squad goes down and start to turn from a Congeal comp into a general debuff comp after that, and turn from Congeal into like overall debuff pressure and turn into a debuff stall comp. In hindsight, maybe that's how I should have led the team, with both Blobs and maybe Armtail or Araklich as the leadoff, but that's not what I did, so hindsight is 2020 again. I don't really have much experience playing Blobs, so I know they kind of pool together to be a debuff stall comp, but I don't know that two of them by themselves would have done enough to do that. So that definitely my inexperience in PvP showing through there a little bit. And then we have a Light Shift Elder Gel with Mana Donor. Because this Elder Gel is definitely meant to kind of fill in as a bit more of a supportive setup and bringing mostly just like blood magic and deep wounds to the field to maybe substantiate a little bit of extra debuff damage coming in the late game. I elected to go with the Mana Donor setup to help the others spam out their big abilities a lot more freely. But yeah. Don't know if it worked or not because we didn't get there. You'll see in the gameplay video. As far as equipment goes, this is the same Armtail. Restoring Wand, Drum, Sun Pendant, Slime Skin. Hexing Rod, Drum Hood, and Slime Skin on Ice Blob, so we can get some extra debuffing. Restoring Wand, Crown Hood, and Tambourine to give Araklich the extra cleansing and some extra healing capabilities. Vertrag, same setup as the other team. This definitely should have been swapped out for something different on this comp, as I don't have any other age on allied monsters, but hey, I forgot about that and I overlooked it. But yeah, definitely not. This does almost nothing in this team comp. Actually, no, I guess I have Elder Gel, so, but they're both not offensive mons in this comp, so that really wouldn't help me that much. Blob, Hexing Rod, Slimeskin, Tambourine, and Hide. Again, same concept. We want extra debuffs going around off of our little blobs. And Elder Gel, Harp, Drum, Ocarina, and Crown. This is just maximizing how much healing output the Elder Gel can have, and giving it as much mana regen as humanly possible to help with mana donor. Food. We've got bananas, peanuts on the blob, because it has natural health synergy built into its kit, and we build for a lot of health on our items, so we'll feed it peanuts instead, and bananas. This is not a team trying to output offensive pressure via its attacks. It's meant to be a debuff stall comp. It didn't do that terribly well. And then last but not least, and this is the team that I've alluded to a little bit in the Discord as Team 4. This is the only team that did not see play during the actual match. This is an Occult Mage comp. And this is the only appearance of Tengu, who is the 12th monster that I had drafted. So, the lead looks a lot like my aging comp, except instead of rock, we have a Lich, because we are looking to optimize for Occult plus Mage synergy. So this is the exact same Vertrag that you've seen in every other team so far. Still Cursebreaker, still Gravity, still the same setup. This is the same Dark Shift Elder Gel from the Aging comp, except this time we are much more built around blood magic, because this is whenever an Occult or Mage hits an enemy, 40% chance to bleed. Every single monster in my team is Occult or Mage. So the idea here is to optimize this and have this be a bit of my own bleed comp with like deep wounds and everything alongside of it. As such, this is probably my most offensive team that I have, and given the way that my opponent's games played, I maybe should have brought this out in Game 4 to try to pressure my opponent, because my opponent was a very good defensive comp. Like a medium to slow speed defensive comp. This is the, I believe, same Dark Shift Lich from before. Just looking to crit the heck out of something. This is the same unshifted crit monster Asura that we had before. Again, we are just looking to put out as much damage as possible, get those bleeds wherever we can off of Elder Gel. Ideally, the Elder Gel never goes down, and we always have the Occult Mage synergy up, and that way everybody else can put the pressure on. This is the Dark Shift Tanuki. Heroic Assault. Every monster in the party gets 1% crit chance for every buff on it. Good lord. This guy already has 70% crit chance and he's going to spam buffs on himself. Holy crap. So yeah, this is the Killer Tanuki that's going to come in and try to look to murder you with his signature passive Maneki. Oh yeah. I do also, even more so, regret not playing this comp just to actually get some screen time on Dark Tanuki. But yeah, we didn't. I digress, you know. Maybe I'll try to break this out if I get something similar to this in a future draft. Fair warning to everybody who drafts against me. I might be looking to do some shenanigans. But yeah, Dark Shift Tanuki looking to just take some names and do some damage. We got level 5 Whirlwind, level 5 Leaf Slash. So if you were thinking about dodging, no. I'm going to kill you. And then we just got like all the attacking battery stuff to just constantly proc a million things when we attack and whatnot. And then Tengu, Dark Tengu, increased damage dealt by 20%. This guy wants to inflict massive violence upon the enemy with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 mana overloads on that tree. 600 mana. I'd like to ask you a question. That question is kaboom! Die. So yeah. This guy also could output a ton of damage. Would inflict some gnarly bleeds off of Elder Gel's proc. And yeah, God, I would have liked to bring this, considering that my opponent brought the same team of 6 every single battle, and I believe 5 of those 6 mods were weak to magical fire. God, I don't know what this mod does, but gee, howdy me, it sure looks like fire. Sure looks like a lot of fire. Yeah. In hindsight, I do wish I brought this team at least once, because whoo boy, getting that Tengu in play might have been able to be a difference maker, and yeah. Who knows if the Tengu might have just been able to just like click boom on one target at a time and just take names through my opponent's entire roster. As for equipment, you already know what the Vertrag do, because we've been here, done that a couple times. You saw the Elder Gel earlier, nothing has changed. Same with the Arachlich, same with the Asura. Dark Tanuki is on Scythe, Fin, Fang, Bead Chain, pretty standard crit setup. And Tengu is on Swallow, Ancestral Metal, Shield Generator, and Needle. Just a pretty standard little Tengu setup. Get that little bit of extra damage as much as possible out of the Tengu's first fire. And for food, Tanuki is on pure crit damage, and Tengu is on cookie mushrooms. So yeah, that's my four teams that I brewed up for this week's round of grid draft. The match is already out there. Like I said, my opponent did bring the same team in all 4 games. I would say the games played out probably a bit notably differently from each other. Different pacing in each game, different decision making in each game. My opponent definitely had good adaptation from game to game. Something my inexperience definitely brings to the forefront is I did not think about going and changing equipment on my Mons between games or anything like that. Like, I just loaded up a team and sent it. I didn't think about, like, altering the equipment that I had on my Mons from game to game, despite the fact that I maybe could have gotten a little bit of advantage in doing so. And that's something that I will definitely keep in mind for the future. Again, this was my first time playing PvP in Monster Sanctuary at all. And the video yesterday, again, and I do apologize. I'll apologize again, and I apologize during the ending of that video, but definitely a little bit of salt came out. Some choices in the way that, like, some of the things in PvP play out with, like, the RNG from, like, taunts and blinds and stuff like that. It's something that I guess my background from so many different competitive games leads me to kind of wonder how we got here. But I don't think that the Monster Sanctuary devs really thought about this game as a PvP game. And so it would make sense that a lot of the design decisions weren't necessarily made with PvP in mind. And so, as such, we just have to adapt and deal with what we have. And I know, like, there are some people in the community working on mods that are more focused on PvP, and I do believe that they are aiming to remove some of that RNG from the equation. And that is definitely a very clear indication of what you kind of would expect out of a design aimed at player versus player interaction. Because I don't think anybody really goes into anything that's player versus player oriented and wants an experience that's derived on coin flipping and, like, dice rolling 1 in 3s or whatever, right? Again, this will probably be a rant I get into a little bit more at the end of this season, I think. But yeah, I can definitely learn a lot from week 1, adapting my teams in a more nuanced manner from game to game. The one team that I won with, that I ran back in game 4, I easily could have gone in and changed a couple pieces of equipment around. And that could have made the world of difference in how the second battle played out. And I didn't, because I didn't even think about it. And that's something that should be on my mind as I try to improve and try to get better at Monster Sanctuary PvP. And yeah, it's gonna be a learning experience for me. It was definitely the first time I've been out on this rodeo. I love grid drafting. I come from Magic the Gathering, so anything draft related is a big tickle my brain waves and make the monkey clap the cymbals in my head. And I love things that make me use mons in different ways and think about things and gameplay decisions and team builds in different and unique ways, like I did, or at least like I think I did. Um and I think that's the real focus here. And I am looking forward to doing more in the future. I'm looking forward to my round 2, and hopefully I can bounce back and get a dub in round 2. And yeah, so next week I will be back. We will have the same 2 videos up as we did this week, except that they're actually going to come out in the logical order this time, with the first video coming out being this one. That'll be me breaking down my opponent's monsters and my opponent's draft and what I think that my opponent might be getting up to, and also what teams that I've kind of come up with that I think I'm going to play for the week. And then the second video will be the raw gameplay during the match with my commentary on top of it, because I think I just prefer to record my games with me talking through my games as I'm playing, because it's just more natural to me, rather than trying to like record the video and then like go back over it and like try to talk through my plays and my decisions in post. That just doesn't work with my brain. It's much easier for me to ramble while I'm playing the game and then maybe have like some little like awkward spots where maybe I'm thinking a little bit and I'm not talking, as opposed to like, all right, I'm watching the video trying to remember like why I made decisions or whatever, and it also just cuts down on editing time a lot for me, which yeah, that's important, because if I had to do 5 or 6 hours of editing work for these videos, spoiler, you wouldn't be getting these videos. So that's just the long and short of it. If you have any feedback on the formatting of the videos or the presentation of like the data sheets for my opponent's team, please comment down below. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know how I can improve, because this is honestly my first time doing something like this. And yeah, I mean, you can kind of poke around my name and my profile on YouTube and arguably Twitch as well. And yeah, I've been on a bit of a hiatus from content creation for a while now, but a lot of that was PC related, and I have a new PC now, so I'm trying to kind of get back into things. And yeah, I'm going to want to improve and do better with the content that I put out. So if you have any kind of feedback, please let me know down below. Anything that helps. If you think audio balance is off or anything like that, please hit me up in the comments. Anything is accepted. If you want to try to flame me and trash talking crap, fine. I'll just delete the comment. I don't care. You know, whatever. It's not going to harm me. But like, if you got positive feedback that can make my content better, I am all ears. Thank you. And with that, I will see you guys next week for round 2 of the Monster Sanctuary grid draft.